Well, firstly, I've given about 10 minutes about the illusory distinction between public and private. The member should have listened, so I don't intend to relitigate that. So I've dealt with that issue. I've dealt with that issue at length. Secondly, I won't repeat what the member said in his speech, but it is against standing orders to imply directly or otherwise that a member is doing something influenced by donors or other outside interests. I know the member's new, but he shouldn't do that, and I take offence at that.
It will also remind the Minister and the Chair that that's a job for the Chair, and was noting that.
Sorry.
My
apologies.
Yes, the Honourable Duncan Webb, and it's only 9 o'clock.
Kia ora, and I'm interested that the Minister chose to stand up and make that statement, given that the media is full of statements about donors in this bill. And so it's in the public domain, and I've spoken about it in this House before, and so we should. But I have two questions.
I just warn members that just be very careful about going towards individuals, is where you'll start to get some kickback from the Chair.
I have, unrelated to that point, and it's not for the Minister to tell us what our debates are, but is two distinct points. One is, do we know who the people on this fast track list are? And in particular, who the ultimate owners of the private entities are. And there's three ways in which I'd like to know this. And I'd really like to know that the government has done its due diligence and knows who actually owns these projects. Firstly, there are a number of limited companies, and that's really normal. Nothing concerning about that in and of itself. But what I want to know is that, has the government gone through and tracked back to find out who the owners are, to make sure that there's transparency there? Which brings me to my second point. There are numerous limited partnerships on this fast track list. Beachlands South Limited Partnership, to name one. Blackman's Creek Holdings Limited, number one, limited partnership. Now, one of the troubling aspects of limited partnerships in New Zealand is that general partners are secret, that there is no public register of the general partners in a limited partnership. And what I want to know is, in respect of each of the limited partnerships there, has the government required transparency so that we know who is actually getting on the list? Who are the parties, not only who on this side of the House we argue are getting a private benefit from this legislation, but also who are expected to complete this project, whatever it may be, in a responsible and compliant manner. That's just good due diligence. And I also note there's one there in respect of a development in Rangiora, a residential development of 780 dwellings, and it's just Ben Dormer. Now, it may be that Ben Dormer is actually the person, but he's listed as an authorised person, and it's not clear to me, the Minister may be able to clarify, whether that means he is the owner of the development itself. I mean, the owner in law of the property. So that's my first point, transparency. The second point, which is quite distinct, and it occurred to me as Honourable David Parker spoke, and that is, this bill has a number of projects in the South Island. And I've read it before, and I was reading again the Ngāi Tahu Claims Settlement Bill. And that bill goes through and recognises grievances and sets out protections. And two struck me in particular. It lists significant rivers of significance, that is to say, rivers of significance to Ngāi Tahu. And the Huranui River is one of them. And the other thing it does, and it does many, many more things, but just by way of example, it identifies taonga species which are at risk and are of special value to Ngāi Tahu. And in respect of both of those things, as part of their settlement, Ngāi Tahu were given particular rights to be consulted in things like these projects. Now, I can understand the Minister might say, well, we are still able to do that, but the contract in the settlement bill was that you're obliged to do it. And my question is this, whether it is consistent with the Ngāi Tahu Claims Settlement Bill, not only with its words, but also with the good faith obligation of the Crown to now not be obliged to consult on rivers of significance and on the impact on taonga species. So I'd be really appreciated if you could answer those two themed questions.
Land farm, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have some very specific questions from the Minister, so I'll just wait till he's finished his advice. Thank you.
You're welcome to wait until the Minister's listening.
Thank you. So, thank you for allowing us to step very carefully and deliberately through the bill, because that is of utmost importance. So I'm going to get really specifically to my amendment, which is amendment number 147. And I want to ask the Minister and hear from the Minister about where environmental outcomes actually sit within the purpose clause of the bill. And it's a really genuine question, because this amendment proposes that after regional or national benefits, and this is page 6, line 11 of the bill, that we actually insert a part of the clause that says, while continuing to promote the sustainable management of natural and physical resources. Now, I want to stress with this, and I'm interested in the Minister's consideration of this, because this is not a high bar. This is not talking about explicit protection of all environment everywhere, and we've seen that with the RMA, because we've seen that the evidence time and time again in every domain report that MFE and Stats New Zealand are putting out across air, ocean, freshwater biodiversity, that our environment is in decline. You know, that is an undisputable fact. So why is it seen as such a, unimaginable thing that we have a very basic reference to the natural environment in the purpose clause, which we know, again, given the RMA has still been enabling development and essentially the decline of the environment? Is it that the Minister has such a low expectation of the operations of these companies and the activities that they will carry out, if ultimately approved under fast track, that he thinks that they cannot meet very basic bars of environmental enhancement, of environmental protection of some form within their development? And I wanted to vocalise the submission, that one of the submissions that we heard at Environment Select Committee was from a housing developer in Selwyn who had been working over many years very closely with Ngāi Tahu and the Selwyn District Council and Environment Canterbury to get houses built very efficiently and effectively in Selwyn while not destroying the environment. And he talked about how it's been really simple, it's been good processes. What is wrong with having a very basic reference in the purpose clause that actually does, to some very basic way, provide for environmental considerations?